Hello, I'm Michael Chagani, and this is Straight Talk. We're going to change the subject today, not politics. We're going to talk about LGBT rights, same-sex marriage, and why it's taboo in Hong Kong. Now, I have with me today Angus Leung and Scott Adams. You are a couple, right? Angus, you're with the civil service, and you're a pilot, right, Scott? Now, first of all, I said we're not going to talk about politics, but it is political, right? I remember Carrie Lam, our chief executive, saying just maybe a couple of weeks ago, that she doesn't really like to talk about LGBT rights in Hong Kong, but she said a couple of weeks back in LegCo that society has to prove that it's acceptable or people want to have same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. The implication being that society is not ready for this in Hong Kong. Angus, why is it not ready?
First of all, she did mention that it's actually not even an LGBT rights issue. And for her, I think it's about the government, how they administrative the policy. And the latest recent ruling has shown that, the government has been administrated their policy unfairly and in a discriminative manner. So for her, it's about how the government works. But for us, because it's our rights, we think it's an LGBT rights. That's why we call it an LGBT rights issue. And I think for the government to look at the discrimination, it shouldn't be related to a consensus of a society. You don't
need a consensus.
Yeah, it's like if the whole society consents to discriminate certain kind of people, does that mean that you would do it? That's totally wrong. So I think it is important for the government to
review all their policies now to make sure there's no discrimination in all their policies. Scott, now the two of you got married, I think, in New Zealand in 2014.
Yeah.
The case with you is this, that since Angus works for the government with the immigration department, I think, right? That you're a couple, and therefore, since he's a civil servant, you should get spousal rights, right? Benefits like other married couples in the government get, right?
Right.
That would be like medical care, dental care, and the right to inform each other if one of you is facing an emergency.
Yes, correct.
But you're not going to get those rights, right? Mm-hmm. Because Hong Kong does not recognize same-sex marriage. Yet another case where a couple, also same-sex couple, one of them wanted to have a spousal visa in Hong Kong in order to work in Hong Kong, and that couple won their case in the Court of Final Appeal. You lost yours in the Court of Appeal. Why is that? It's similar, right? The two issues are very similar.
It's similar, and every court that we go to may have a different opinion on this. But the issues, well, it stands that the civil service has a code of practice against discrimination of sexual orientation in the workplace. So there's a pledge by the government that their employees, the civil service, will be entitled to the same benefits, the same rights, the same pay as their heterosexual counterparts. The government pledges that. They have that published on their website.
So why did you lose?
Because the court thinks that it's going to undermine the integrity of the marriage system by giving us benefit.
Well, why would the court feel that it will undermine the integrity of the marriage system? Is that for the court to decide, or is it for the two of you to decide?
Well, for me, I think it's about how you apply the policies fairly and give equally. So it's not up to the... Sorry.
It's not up to whom? It's not up to the court.
It's not up to us. And then because the government has made such a promise, and then for them, they should show that it's actually some positive action instead of empty words. But at this moment, all I can see is they actually discriminating the sexual minorities. They refuse to give us right. And meanwhile, I can see my different sex colleagues. They are able to, provide for their spouse, protect them.
So does that make you angry, Angus, that the people you work with, your colleagues, their spouses can get medical care, dental care, a lot of other government benefits, but Scott cannot, and you're legally married?
Yes, this makes us get angry, and it's also hugely frustrated. It's like a constant reminder that I'm like a second-class colleague. I mean, I'm a second-class civil servant at the workplace. And I mean, at the end, I just want to, we're no difference to them. I fall in love with a guy, I want to form a family, and I want to protect them, and there's no difference.
Scott, now the thing is, you lost in the Court of Appeal, the two of you. You're going to take it to the Court of Final Appeal? Because the other same-sex couple did, and they won.
Yes. Well, there's a few decisions. We got until the middle of August before we need to make a decision on whether we apply for leave to go to the Court of Final Appeal.
Costs you a lot of money, huh?
Yeah. We've already paid hundreds of thousands of Hong Kong dollars for this case.
Can you afford it?
Well, we're not going to get this money back.
Is it worth it then? Let me ask you this: Is it worth it to fight for a principle, even though it's going to cost you a lot of money to fight for a principle that you should get the same benefits that the spouses of Angus's colleagues get, but you don't get them? Is it worth spending everything you've got to say, I want to fight for this principle?
Well,
I mean, do you have the money to do it?
We don't have the money to do it.
If you just look at the numbers, what we get from the court case, if we won, and compare the money we put in, no, it's definitely not comparable. But what's important is we want to be treated fairly and equally, and you want to be able to be your spouse to be recognized and have dignity to live in the society, and you cannot put a price tag on that.
You talk about dignity. When you walk in the streets, do people look at you? Do people give you stares? Or
generally, no. People don't
whatsoever.
seem to care.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't care, right?
No.
So why does the government care so much?
Because there's a lot of organisations out there which are very loud, which does seem to care significantly about it. When the discussion came in other jurisdictions like America and UK and Australia, there were huge discussions at that time when they talked about same-sex marriages and legislation for that. Mm-hmm. But now it's happened, it's all blown over and nobody talks about it anymore. It's just, what was the big deal? Every
time the issue comes up here, you've got people in the Legislative Council, for example. You've got Holden Chow from the DAB party. You've got others who will say it is not natural. It is against Hong Kong culture. It is against Asian culture. And that it would, like you say, destroy the marriage system in Hong Kong. When elected legislative councillors say that in the Legislative Council, does that make you angry?
Of course.
What do you want to do to these people? Do you want to go there and say, mind your own business, or what?
Well, I think we're angry, but at the same time, we just take our chances to show that we actually no difference than others.
Have you confronted these people and say, look at me. I am the same as you. I've got two eyes, I've got two ears, I've got a mouth, I've got a nose. Why am I different? I don't judge what you do. Why do you judge what I do? Have you ever said that to these people?
Well, I know, like our friends, like has been like encounter, the opposition party, like, people have different views, and we're always trying to, involve in an intellectual conversation to try to explain, what our situation is. It's like we're actually human beings. We just want to be treated fairly and equally. So yeah, there is conversations among, but maybe not in the public eyes.
And not a direct conflict. That's not going to help anybody.
It doesn't help anybody. But you cannot disagree, though, Scott, that Hong Kong culture seems to be against this, or Asian culture seems to be against it.
Absolutely not. It's
You think it isn't against it?
Well, there's a recent survey by Hong Kong University that just got published a couple of weeks ago that said 78% of people are in favour of having some laws to protect or give the same rights and benefits to same-sex couples. And in addition, more than 50% said they welcome same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. So there's no data to suggest that.
We don't know either way, though, right?
Well,
but Asian culture, like
the only survey that's been done was published 2 weeks ago by the Hong Kong University. There's no other data.
I know, but if you look at Asian societies like Japan, China, wherever, there doesn't seem to be the kind of openness for LGBT communities as it is in the West.
But it exists. It's still there.
Yeah,
but they don't come out.
It's just...
Well, they may not come out.
I think that's the problem, because now, at this moment, it seems that the opposite side has a bigger voice. And then the LGBT community doesn't speak much, or they didn't come out to say anything. But it doesn't mean that we don't exist. And I think that is actually one thing that would be important, is that people should be proud of themselves. And, we're not talking about you have to come to go into the middle of Central and hold a sign saying that I'm gay, I'm no different. But it's just a normal conversation with people to share your life, to share your life, and let people know we're no different than others.
Okay, quick break. See you soon. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. This is Straight Talk. With me is Angus Leung and Scott Adams. You are a couple going through some very difficult situations in Hong Kong. You're with the civil service, you're a pilot, and you want to get, Angus wants to get the same kind of rights that other couples get in the government for you, but you lost the case. Now, Angus, before the break, you said that LGBT community doesn't speak as loud as the community that opposes same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. Why? Why are you so silent? If you want to fight for your rights, speak up.
I think that's because Hong Kong is a very traditional society.
That's what I said earlier. People don't seem to accept this, right?
It's not about being accepted, but I can see a lot of our friends, they are being discriminated at work and they have difficulties in life. And for them, they always feel that it's hard to even come out to tell people what they're going through. And I think also the society, in that sense, they feel that it's really hard to them to come out. So for us, we feel that we're the lucky one. We're proud of ourselves. We're blessed.
Well, you
with
have
family.
come out.
Yeah.
Scott, I don't know how large the LGBT community is in Hong Kong. How large is it?
It's just as large as any other country in the world, approximately 8 to 10% of the population.
8 to 10% of the population.
Yeah.
So we've got a 7 million plus population. You talk about 700,000 people.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem to show.
So Hong Kong has quite strong family values, I believe. So, for example, if you look compared to a Western society, Hong Kong families are quite strong. People tend to live with their families until a lot older age than they do in the UK. So that having that independence level is very different from Western cultures and Hong Kong cultures. So if you've got to live with your family until maybe 40 years old...
You don't dare come out of the closet.
Correct, because it's difficult that you've got to live with that conflict if there is going to get conflict, if your parents are not going to accept it. We've got friends who, they know that their parents know, but they've never been able to have the conversation about it, and they don't want to directly tell their parents because their parents lose face against all their friends and family who they've then got to go and tell.
But that goes back to what I originally said, that Asian cultures don't seem to want to accept this.
But just because they don't seem to want to accept it doesn't mean to say it's right.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that, when people like Carrie Lam argue that, she says, show me that there's a consensus that the public wants to have same-sex marriage. If you can prove that to me, then we'll look at it. But she's got a point in saying that, doesn't she? When you just said that Hong Kong is very traditional, like the both of you said, people don't want to accept it.
A few points on that. Firstly, the recent Hong Kong University survey is in direct contradiction to what Carrie Lam said. Mm-hmm. So that is the only comprehensive survey that's been done, and it showed that more than 50% are in favour of same-sex marriage. Secondly, our case is not about same-sex marriage. We are legally married. We don't need the right to get married in Hong Kong. What we're looking for is the recognition of our relationship for the purpose of benefits.
But if they don't recognize same-sex marriage, how can they recognize the benefits that come with it?
Many companies in Hong Kong already recognize same-sex marriage or same-sex relationships for the purpose of employment benefits. You don't need to have law in Hong Kong to get married to recognize your relationship. Likewise, Australia, for the past 15, 20 years, they've been recognizing same-sex relationships for the purpose of immigration, tax, and a number of other social issues, but they only legally allowed same-sex marriages just a few months ago. So the two are independent.
Yeah, and also for the latest QT case, the judgment, it showed that, you can actually give same-sex to
that was the other case,
same-sex,
right? Yeah.
without undermining the current, marriage system in Hong Kong.
Angus, Scott said that about 8 to 10% of any other community, like similar to Hong Kong, is LGBT, right? Okay. Now, in Hong Kong, so that would be like 700,000 people, right? How many of these people have come out of the closet? Because I don't think that many has, right?
Oh, we don't have a figure on that one.
Well, we could take you to a bar and show you if you like.
There are bars in Hong Kong with that, right? And do they openly say that they are gay or whatever?
Yeah. They advertise as gay bars in Hong Kong.
So you said it's very difficult because Hong Kong is very traditional. And Scott, you said that people live with their families and so on. I know you don't anymore. You live obviously together in your own home. How do your parents accept this?
Well, I told them when I was young, and at first it is a little bit difficult, but then since they met Scott, they know that actually
you've met his parents.
Absolutely,
Oh,
yes. We have a great relationship.
You do,
yes, yeah. And I think most parents only want to know that their kids are doing okay,
and fine and healthy and happy.
Yeah, and then they saw me with Scott, we're healthy, we just want to build our life together. Then yeah, there's no problem at all.
What about you? I mean, has Angus been to your parents' home?
Yeah, absolutely. we go on holidays together every year with my parents and his parents. It's just like a normal family. There is no
You plan to adopt children?
Where?
Do you plan to adopt children in Hong Kong or wherever?
Legally cannot in Hong Kong, so unless we move from Hong Kong.
Well, they don't even
change.
recognize him as my partner. How can I even like...
One step at a time, huh?
But tell me this, are you from New Zealand or from...
No, I'm from UK.
From the UK, okay. Do they accept, would they let you legally adopt children in the UK?
Yes.
No problem.
You have a plan to go there to live rather than live here? This is such a, in your case, in the case of same-sex marriage, and so it's such a discriminatory society.
Well, for me, I was born and grew up here. And for Scott, he has actually lived here for like more than 16 years. He spent most of his adult life in Hong Kong as well. So we see Hong Kong as our home. And if it's your home, you want to build it better instead of run away if there's a problem. We're trying hard at this moment to make it right. But of course, if at the end, there's no change or everything is against us, then we will reconsider at that point. But at this moment, we still want to make our home better.
And in addition, we're both in jobs. Angus works for the government, which is not easily transferable.
And you're a pilot. You're a commercial pilot, right?
That's right.
Now, I know you work for a big airline. I won't mention the airline, but I know you work for a big airline. Yeah. How does that airline treat you?
They give full spousal benefits to Angus.
They do?
They do.
Yeah. So then why do you need it from both ends? Because they give it, if your boss, your company gives spousal benefits to Angus, then you don't need government spousal benefits for Scott.
Technically, you're right, but it's not just about us. We feel that we are the lucky pairs, that we have the ability to fight for everyone else as well. Because I know people that not every couple they're working together. So we also from time to time we think about what if one of us gets sick? How can we take care of each other anymore? It's like at this moment, we're fine to take care of each other. But what if Scott gets sick and my benefit doesn't cover him anymore?
It's a bit late to try and fight for the benefit in that sort of situation.
What do you want Hong Kong to do? Okay, now you're a same-sex couple. You feel that there are many things which are not right. What do you want Hong Kong to do? Recognize same-sex marriage, recognize benefits for spouses and so on. What exactly do you want?
I mean, for me, Hong Kong is actually very well established. They have the Bill of Rights to prevent discrimination. The government actually have their own policy, code of practice, to eliminate all kind of discrimination against sexual orientation in the workplace. But for me, at this moment, these are all empty words. I want them to actually honor what they promise all their employees, and to just lead the way. Do you
see that happening soon? Do you see a big sea change in culture, in thinking, in tradition in Hong Kong?
Well, the QT case has shown that there is discrimination.
The QT case is this other couple whose names have not been released, so it's called the QT case. Right?
Correct. But they've shown, and the court has shown, that there is discrimination in the policies of the government. What I would personally like to see is now the government review all of their policies to see if there is other areas of discrimination, like in areas where we are also doing a judicial review.
Okay. I've got 1 minute left. I just want to get into something personal about your lives. Couples go out, they go to the bar, they go to restaurants, they bring their kids with them or whatever, How do the two of you spend your life in Hong Kong, your social life, when you're off work?
We go to the bar, we go to the restaurants, we take our godkids with us, we meet our family. Yeah, exactly like you just said as a couple.
Yeah,
but you say you go to gay bars rather than regular
bars.
No,
I didn't say that.
We did go to gay bars, but we also go to normal bars. We don't particularly choose to go to gay bar. We actually spend a lot of time in the normal bars as well.
If you look in a society like the UK, the number of gay bars is falling now because it's just accepted you go to a bar. You don't need to have a specific gay
You don't
bars.
really need it, right? Because you're a normal, right? So why do you have to have a bar especially for a certain type of people?
Exactly. And in UK, it's definitely going that way.
But not in Hong Kong.
At the moment, it's still a few years or many years behind, and that's why we're trying to change.
Well, good luck to you. I hope you can change all of that. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks a lot. See you next time. Good evening.